Hi, good evening and welcome to the City of Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is August 26, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call, please.
Mayor St. John,
Here.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Grumney.
Here.
Mrs. Crawford. Mr. Soderman.
Here.
6 present, we have quorum.
Great. We are going to begin our evening with a public hearing. This is related to the rezoning of SGB Fund 1 LLC, Hale Evans Farms. The anticipated process is the applicant will present, we'll review the staff report, open it up for public comment, and any commission questions and comments, and close the public hearing. With that said, I'd like to hand it to Mr. Vic Whitney to both enter exhibits and work towards swearing in anyone who would like to speak on or behalf of this particular development. Mr. Whitney.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Vic Whitney. I am legal counsel to the Planning and Zoning Commission. As the mayor indicated, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing. As you can note, there's a stenographer here and she's recording everything that's being said. In a moment, anyone that plans to speak or may like to speak on this agenda item at this hearing on the rezoning of the Hale Evans Farms, we're going to ask you to stand up so we can swear you in. Like I said, because this is a public hearing, that will be required. And that is for anyone, including the applicant or any visitors or community members that may want to come up and give comment. We would ask you to swear in. If you stand and get sworn in and you later decide you don't want to come up and give comment, that's totally fine. But we would ask you if you think you might do that to go ahead and stand up and so we can swear you in. When I kick it back over to the mayor who will be running the meeting, he will call persons to come up to the lectern to provide comment and testimony. There's a microphone. Like I said, the stenographer obviously is recording everything. Please try to speak slowly and clearly into the microphone so that we can hear everything and the stenographer can hear everything that's said. The commission members may or may not ask you questions. If they do ask you questions, please let them ask the entire question before you start commenting, because again, with the stenographer, it just makes it really difficult for her to transcribe everything accurately if more than one person's speaking at the same time. And then we would also ask that you just direct all of your comments in response to any questions to the commission, not to the rest of the gallery out here. And if you do come up and give comment or testimony, please, right as you approach the lectern, first thing, just please state your name and your address clearly. So again, we can be transcribed and we have a record of who you are in case we would need to reach you later. Okay, with that said, anyone that may wish to give testimony, please stand right now. We'll have the stenographer swear you in.
We solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony I'm about to present will be the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth.
And finally, Your Honor, before turning this back over to you, I would like to move to admit exhibits. So I have 3 exhibits here. I've got an exhibit marked as Exhibit A, which is 8 pages and includes the rezoning application submitted by the applicant, plus the other submittal documents that they submitted, including the plan drawing and the legal description and the record of affected property owners. Exhibit B is a 4-page document, which consists of the public notice that was put forth for this hearing and proof of mailing to the affected property owners. And Exhibit C is a 2-page document that is the staff report prepared and submitted to the commission. So with that, I would move to admit the exhibits.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Whitney. All right, let's go ahead and begin with the applicant presentation. Someone here from the applicant that would like to speak on behalf of this particular rezoning request?
Name's David Dix. It's DIX, address 2106 Rickover Place. That's Winter Garden, Florida, 34787. I'm the Vice President Development for Caris and the SGB Fund representing the applicant. Staff, commission, thank you for your time tonight, and we really appreciate all the time you've spent so far getting this project to this point. We're respectfully requesting the rezoning of the roughly 300 acres Hale and Evans property that is generally located south of Vans Valley Road between Trenton Road and Miller Hall Road. The rezoning is to the limited industrial zoning district. The intent of this new zoning is to attract advanced manufacturing and technology facilities that will generate employment and real estate tax revenue for the city. And I'm here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you very much. All right, we have the staff report.
As the applicant said, this is just below 300 acres, just south of Vans Valley Road. Previously, this commission did approve the rezoning of limited industrial directly above where this is located. And then just a little more regional context, it does have Berkshire Township directly to the west, Trenton directly to the east, and then just south is also Trenton and leads into Harlem. So it's over around that way, but it is connected to the limited industrial that was approved a little bit prior, and it consists of 9 total parcels.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak related to the Hale Evans Farms rezoning, the limited industrial district? We got one gentleman up here. Come on up, sir.
Right, well, 3741 Worthington Road. I'm generally for development, so and pretty much I'm good with that in most cases. My comment, I guess, tonight is with the recent rezoning to the north and the zoning as proposed here, there are a handful of parcels that are pretty much surrounded by this new zoning designation. And that's a concern, I think, on our part as property owners. And so that's my comment, and for consideration there, if that makes sense. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any comments or questions from the commission at this point? All right, I'll go ahead and move to close the public hearing. All right, next item on the agenda is the commission review rezoning SGB Fund 1 LLC Hale Evans Farms. This is from this is to limited industrial district. Commission discussion. Any comments?
My biggest concern is exactly what that gentleman said. We're creating an island, and we've always strived to do away with islands versus creating islands. I know it's not 100% an island, but we're creating one. We're surrounding residential with industrial. I find that to be concerning myself too.
Any other comments?
Can we pull that map up on them? It would be the page 2.
One for the staff report though.
Page 2, yeah. Next page, yeah. So as you can see to the bottom is the new annexation. In the right-hand side of that, you can see that leg that comes up, almost creating a complete island of residential.
You talking about that thin red strip coming up there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right there.
I mean, it's one thing to be putting industrial right up next to residential and industrial right next to one another, but surrounding them is a whole nother story.
Is there any history of this in the village where something similar like this has been rezoned with residential? Kind of like Joe's saying, I know you guys have been involved in this for a lengthy period of time. Have we addressed this issue before? Because it concerns me as well that, you know, if I owned one of those properties, I would probably be a little concerned about my property value, not knowing what comes next? Limited industrial is pretty different than agricultural. So I imagine some of those properties probably are agricultural in nature, farmhouses, older homes.
There's been numerous times since I've been on zoning that we have taken islands and changed this, worked with the property owner and changed the zoning to make it not an island. It'd still be a concern to me. I mean, you're surrounding homeowners. I mean, like Mr. Stavin said, we're destroying their property values. That is so unneighborly. It's concerning to me. And should be the rest of you too.
You want to speak to, did you reach out to these property owners? Obviously, we know that, the formal notice went out, but as the developer, have you had a chance to have conversations with the property owners?
I know the notices went out. I have not received any correspondence. I'm not sure if the attorney has, received any correspondence from those, residential owners.
You know how long ago the notices were posted? Has it been weeks, days, or any idea? Has there been adequate time for them to come forward?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Meeting?
there's a minimum of 2 week prior
Okay.
to, so yes. And I believe they went out at the beginning of this month.
Gotcha.
You've heard nothing back from the residents?
We have not heard anything back.
Can't be the first time you've faced this. Is there any things that you've addressed that, you know, to put our minds at ease that this is a good thing for these people
Yeah.
as well as the community?
Just looking at that, I see that it looks like a flag lot. I don't know if it's the only ever purpose of a flag lot is for access. That's really that flag piece that the sole purpose was probably to provide access for this one parcel. But we would have no use for, I mean, it's that portion of the property. So, I mean, it could be a landscape buffer, it could be anything that's not usable.
About conceding that to the property owner,
You consider that?
because the road is, I believe, I'm looking at this, the actual road that runs north-south is further to the east. There's a white line there that I've driven that meets Vans Valley from the north-south. Is anybody able to confirm that?
Miller Paul.
Is that what that is? That is Miller Paul, yeah. But separating those two properties with that little strip, I mean, one easy concession would be for that property owner that's on the end to not have a driveway that's potentially used for construction access going right down beside his house, because that's what happens, right? I thought.
Is one of the homes, I guess it'd be the furthest northwest, is that the Evans? The one that is, that creates the island. The northwest, not northwest, so top left, unzoned property, that's the Evans property, correct?
The one beside the leg is Buxton. Evans is halfway up those homes. It's about in the middle. I just don't know how we can consciously surround people with industrial.
Can you give us a little context on the setbacks for residential? On this,
Regardless of what this.
I know, I'm asking a question to staff, I understand what you're saying.
From the limited industrial section, that is a good question. Daryl, do you happen to know off the top? I know there is a requirement for screening within that, but exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the text in front of me, but I was going to add, we did make special provisions in the limited industrial district. When it does abut to a residential district, there are additional screening requirements. There's also additional setback. I think it's at least 100 feet for a residential, when it abuts to a residential unit or a residential property. So as the applicant has indicated, I mean, that probably renders that portion of the flag lot unusable, but we should probably check that to confirm for the applicant. There are also some additional restrictions with respect to noise when it abuts to a residential unit as well. So there were attempts to try to mitigate the impacts for residential or for industrial use next to a residential use.
Daryl, have you heard from any of these residents yourself?
I did not. I don't know if they reached out to staff.
I had someone reach out, but they didn't identify themselves as one of these residents, but they were looking for more information regarding this and asked for all the application and information.
Yeah, I found the text in the ordinance on buffering to residential.
Thank you.
I can read that if you'd like, Mr. Mayor. It does say, for all perimeter boundaries where a minimum setback from the abutting districts permitting or occupied by agricultural and residential uses applies, and which are not adjacent to a public right of way, a minimum 5-foot high mound shall be installed along the property line that shall include a landscape buffer on the mound that shall consist of a mixture of deciduous trees, evergreen trees, and evergreen bushes to provide an opacity of 75% on the date that is 5 years after planting to a total height of 10 feet above the top of the mound. So there's fairly extensive buffering.
So 100 feet plus buffering? Is that what we?
Yeah, they can check the setback.
Setback.
It might be in the.
Okay, so just everybody knows, I'm really good with math when it comes to distance. I'm sitting here looking at all these squares in front of us. Each one of these squares is 2 foot.
Mhm.
There's approximately 25 from that wall to this wall. That means 100 foot is twice the distance of this room, and then you have an industrial beside you. Just so you know, that's 100 foot. That's 50 foot right there. So double this is 100. It's not much at all.
From the property boundary. Right.
Well, I look at it, the two properties that there's farthest in, that would be the most impacted is the Evans themselves.
Right.
They're smack in the middle of the two. And they're the ones that are proposing. Well, the others are kind of like a little square by the little flag pole. Which means if the flagpole is unusable, it'll just be open land and they won't be surrounded as much. They'll only be surrounded on two sides, the north and the south.
I see it as the flagpole gives them more lineal footage to annex even more the next time, completely surrounding them. Because where does it stop?
Well, you can't say that they could be the ones next time that want to be annexed in.
I know, I'm just trying to make the point that we're surrounding residential properties.
And if I might be more inclined if it was a usable property instead of a flagpole. Meaning it can't, that part can't be developed. So it's just giving a finger now to the city for more opportunity.
Annexation, if I'm not mistaken, works off of continuous touching ground, is that correct?
Right.
That's right.
So that's the biggest benefit of that being there, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Regardless if it's just created because it was a flag lock or not.
Mhm.
The property that's dead center of that is not Evans' property. The small piece to the far left of the green up in there actually belongs to, I believe it's a Danaher. And it's 3.229 acres. It's number 1 on your sheet as you're looking at it. Right, you're looking at the right page. It's right up here.
Personally, I'm torn because I agree with what Mr. Gokenhour is saying, but the absence of any of these residents coming to the meeting and voicing their concerns is equally of value that, you know, maybe if they're not concerned, then maybe we shouldn't be concerned either. So I'm trying to look at both sides of this. It does seem like if there was significant concern by these residents, they would be here tonight speaking on their own behalf. So I guess that being said, I can't think of a good reason to oppose.
I'd like to add that also when we come in for preliminary site plan, we understand that there's gonna be significant buffers and setbacks. We understand that there's burn requirements, opaque, 100% opaque, maybe buffer requirements. We're fully intent to comply with all divisions of the code when it comes to setback and buffer requirements.
Any further discussion, comments?
We know if there's any other proposed annexations forthcoming of adjacent areas that are already being processed?
Well, there is one, but
Is it in this vicinity?
it's north of this.
North of 3637?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not north of 3637, north of
37.
Valley Road.
North of Vans Valley.
Is that correct, Daryl?
Do you know approximately how many acres that is by any chance? Okay,
93.
so we've annexed 900 in the first big section.
1,300 when you combine both. For the northern and the southern properties.
With the completion of this approval, we'll be shooting close to 1,500 total acres for limited industrial.
It'll be around, yeah, it'll be about 1,400. Did you have a question? You want to come up to the microphone? Please. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Hooper, and I'm not in that little area, but I'm a neighbor for what's happening. If you could bring the map back up, I guess my question is, yeah, that little finger comes up, is it the properties, the 3 properties here that are in consideration to be annexed?
I can't see.
Would you mind showing on the screen, please?
These,
That's correct.
they just sold,
Correct.
so are these the next 3 to be annexed?
Yes, I believe that is in the works, and that same property owner owns property to the west of that. Yes,
But these are the next 3 to be annexed.
that's correct. That's at least, I believe that's in flight. Is that correct, Daryl?
It is, we'll have, resolution for services at the next council meeting. I don't know if it's the 3 properties. Maybe it's 3, I don't remember.
I think it is.
But yeah, it's.
But you're right.
Okay, so, I live here. So you're talking about a huge swath now of industrial, light industrial. Right next door to my neighbor. And I can't say why these people aren't here. I know there's been a lot of, suburbs coming in, they're gonna do what they want to do, sort of, I think attitude a little bit, so they're all trying to township residents, so it's a little disconnected from the process, a letter from that, and then it was rescheduled. So just pointing back out where the properties were to add to the island.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Looking for a motion or continuance on this particular rezoning request?
I move to approve the zoning request of Hale Evans Farms.
Got a motion by Mrs. Miller.
Second.
Got a second by Mrs. Crawford. Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford, Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
No.
5 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, we have the commission review phase approval, Eagle Creek Phase 2 and 3. First item on the agenda for this is the staff report.
Mr. Whited couldn't be here, but he didn't have any notes aside from the fact the approval will be contingent on final engineering.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
I had a couple questions.
This is
Okay.
Eagle Creek Phase
Yes.
2 and 3.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh, Eagle Creek.
Yes.
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
No.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford, Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
5 yeas, motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is the preliminary presentation, also known as an informal review of Woodland Lakes proposed development, anticipated process. You have a binder. You have the applicant here this evening. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Wilcox of Wilcox Communities. Mayor St. John, commission members and city staff, I want to thank you for having us here tonight. I brought several members of my team. I want this to be interactive. I want to answer all of your questions and gather all your feedback. So I did bring our Todd Ferris with Ferris Planning and Design, did our landscape architecture, our civil engineer, plus Chris Moore with Wilcox, and then Brad Parrish with Arcol is also here as well, architecture. So I've never presented here, but saw the word informal, so I'd love this to be informal. If there are questions, comments, thoughts along the way, feel free to interrupt me. Otherwise, I'll just jump in if that's okay.
Please.
So a little bit about us. Wilcox Communities is a family-owned real estate development company. We're based in Worthington. This is our 25th year in business. Company's owned by myself and my brother Jamie and my dad Randy. And we specialize in master plan developments, and we build and manage ranch-style apartment communities. So What that means is a lot of people think of traditional apartments as 3-story, walk up breezeway, have people above and below you. We develop more of a condo type product, 1-story, attached 2-car garage, private outdoor living space, geared towards active adults and investors. But we built them for rent. We do have 3 projects under construction in Delaware County right now, one in Delaware, one in Lewis Center, and one near Powell in Liberty Township. We're excited about being here with you tonight because it's a housing type that we don't see in Sunbury, and it's an exciting thing to offer someone the ability to age in place and stay in their community and have a high quality home to rent instead of purchase. So that's us, and that's what we do. My company is the proposed master developer of the 60-acre site, which we're going to talk about a little bit. We would also be the builder and developer of sub-area A, which is the 1-story proposed 1-story. Sub-area B of our proposal is a traditional apartment home community, is the 3-story breezeway. So we wanted to, because there's so much acreage, instead of doing all of one or the other, some other developments that have come through, we wanted to offer a variety. Cody Coughlin, the Cody Coughlin Company is, he's a way more interesting background than me. He had a successful NASCAR driving racing career. And in 2018, entered into the real estate development business. Cody has developed a project called Cody on Hamilton in Westerville, and is also going to break ground next week in Powell on a new development. So Cody is working with us, and he would be the builder and developer of sub-area B on the plan, which is the traditional apartments. Okay, just an overview of the exact property we're working on. 71, 36, 37, 3 Bs and a K. So this is all the MTB property. This is the highlighted 60 acres that we've been working on. And then of course, this parcel to our south is where the new interchange in Sunbury Parkway will go. There's actually 3 parcels, but the large one is the farm, and then there's a smaller parcel and an even smaller parcel. All 3 though encompass the 60 acres, and they're all owned by the same ownership group. We're sort of in Berkshire, but you've got us surrounded. So everything to the north, south, east, and west of us is in the city of Sunbury. After evaluating our options, we thought it made the most sense to pursue annexation into the city. A couple of reasons for that, but one primary reason is, infrastructure and roadways and this cohesive planning of infrastructure and zoning and how this whole corridor could develop in a great way. We thought it was important to all have under the umbrella of Sunbury. So we're pursuing annexation as we speak. So this is, I believe, your latest, it's called, I'm sorry, you all know this better than I do, but Sunbury Parkway Master Plan. We just wanted to overlay in the red hatched area the parcel we're working on, so you can kind of see it in the context of what I know you all have been working hard on with the master plan. My understanding is it falls into the gateway mixed use area. So about 100% sure if that's finalized or not, but we've been coached to, hey, follow this process, understand what the city is looking for, and we've worked hard to try to incorporate a lot of the principles into our proposal along the way. Okay, so just a general overview of the master plan. We've got it broken down into 3 sub areas. So sub area A, which is essentially all of this, would be our Wilcox Community 1-story apartment homes. And we're proposing a total of 211. And the acreage of that area is about 38. So it works out to about 5.6 to the acre. Sub-area B, I had mentioned is Cody. That is this section here in the southeast corner. And we're proposing 240 traditional apartment homes at a density of about 16 and change. And the reason we laid it out as we did was our understanding from ODOT is that the southbound on-ramp on the 71 is likely going to clip this corner. So with the new interchange, we thought the more intense, dense use to be down closer to the interchange, have a couple of commercial lots on Four Winds, which I'll talk about in a second, and then have our lower density homes closer to the existing single family on Breeze. The final sub area I mentioned are two approximately 4 acres each, so about 8 acres total of planned commercial. And we think that this will likely be the last piece to develop, but we think it'll be some really prime commercial acreage, especially when the interchange in Sunbury Parkway comes in. Our proposal is to extend Four Winds Drive to the south of our property. There's a small stretch where there's proposed to be a signalized intersection at Sunbury Parkway that will go north for Four Winds. So ultimately, this would create a straight shot onto Sunbury Parkway, which you can go east and on 71, or you could go west and head to Delaware. So just some additional overview points of the proposal. The site layout is, and let me go back for a second. So Four Winds currently ends by the Cracker Barrel and White Castle. And our vision is to extend Four Winds all the way through the MTD site, which is zoned for all commercial uses, commercial developments, about 54 acres. Continue Four Winds then all the way through our site, and then work with these property owners in the county to get it connected to the parkway. So, you know, at the end of the day, you'll have 54 acres of commercial, our 60 acres of mixed use, hopefully, and then some additional development opportunities along the new parkway as you kind of look at this whole 100+ acre thoroughfare. We did a few things proactively. There was some talk of the neighbors on a prior application. We're always trying to be very sensitive to the neighbors. I will tell you, I haven't talked to any of them yet, other than some early conversations. We still intend to. We wanted to get feedback tonight from you all. But there are a handful of existing single family homes on 3 Bs and K. And we proactively are proposing our detention basins between their backyards and Four Winds Drive, thinking that could be a nice natural buffer. As I mentioned earlier, we also have the single-story homes behind them with the 3-story in the southeast corner. And then we would also propose one single connection to 3 Bs and a K to provide an access point from 3 Bs and a K to Four Winds onto the new parkway. So I just want to touch on open space. We have about 16 acres of open space, a little more than a quarter of the gross acreage. And you can see that on that exhibit. We've worked hard to preserve some existing tree stands. If you look back at the aerial, you can see some tree stands that go kind of east-west through the property, as well as some more south. So we've tried to create some natural buffer areas to save as many of those as possible in these central areas. And then my understanding is there's gonna be a 10-foot walking path along the new parkway, so we propose bringing that 10-foot path all along Four Winds as well. And the hope would be we have connectivity to all area businesses and restaurants and retail to create a true walkable environment. All right, I'm gonna skip somewhere part of it. I know you touched on that a little bit. I'm certainly happy to answer more questions on that. I want to show you some architecture. So this is a picture of our property called Eastwood, which is actually in Reynoldsburg. We have we being Wilcox, we have 3 different architectural styles we've utilized and developed with our own designer. This one's our Craftsman, which is a newer style that's been well received. We also have what we call Suburban Classic, which is a little more in line with a lot of the suburban development. And finally, we have a modern farmhouse design, which we're using in Powell and New Plain City. So we certainly are open to feedback on exteriors and what's the right fit for Sunbury, but wanted to kind of show you our palette. This is Cody's exterior elevation. It's proposed. They're still working on it, but I wanted to get the latest and greatest to give a flavor of what that could look like. A little bit more of a modern feel and more of a traditional apartment community. His disclaimer was this is still a work in process, which to me is also an opening to get your all's feedback for that work in process. But Brad Parrish from Art Hall is here tonight for Cody, and he can speak specifically to any details of Cody's buildings. Second to last thing I want to touch on is amenities. We invest heavily in amenities in our developments. So in every Wilcox project, we build a community clubhouse with coffee bar, fitness center, outdoor patio and fire area, community garden, and dog park. These are actually photos from some of our other projects. Actually, that's the modern farmhouse, even just and that's not a great photo, but trying to show the community garden. It's a dog park, I think, in Marysville. And then Cody's proposal has a clubhouse as well, a pool, pickleball courts, which I'm being told I need to build pickleball courts in my developments too. It's a big deal. As well as a dog park is as well. And then sub-area C commercial parcels. About 4 acres on the east side of Four Winds and about just under 4 acres on the west side. We've proposed, potential uses, proposed text that could dictate what could go there. I think when the interchange comes in and that signalized intersection comes, I think it'd be a great medical site. I think it'd be a great retail site. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I don't think we're going to attract users though until we get closer to that point. I just still think people are going to want to go up, in the MTB acreage that is existing and not in the infill line. However, I do think over the next few years, this is going to become a prime commercial site. So our vision would be to bring in all 60 acres as one PUD submittal with a planned residential component and a planned commercial component. So at least we have the allowable zoning that you all feel good about today. And then as the road and everything gets in, we would start marketing for that for users. And that's it. So sorry, I talked a little bit longer than I had planned, but certainly appreciate everyone's time and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Are there any comments or questions from the commission?
I had a couple. The 2 parcels to the east of yours. Is one an access parcel and the other just mainly a pond?
That's my understanding. So I believe you're referring to the strip.
Yes,
And then this. Yeah, so they're both owned by the same party. I believe their last name is Goodwin. And I've never actually been able to talk to them. We've reached out a little bit, but my understanding is that is for access to the pond. I just haven't been able to personally confirm that with them.
So there's really not any buildable or usable land on that site, on those two sites.
Not to my knowledge. I think the pond was built when they did the interchange.
I think it's ODOT stormwater detention.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think it's kind of a water skiing
Yeah,
set up.
be serious.
Really?
There's really water skiing that takes place in the area.
And they use the access road to get back there?
Yes.
Yeah, there's also a gravel road
There is, yeah.
from behind McDonald's that runs down here. So they may have access both ways. This is not very accessible. There's not a road and it's kind of overgrown. So I'm guessing they use this.
Well, my last part is, the part that I am concerned about is trying to understand what use those two parcels up against your property is when you've asked for a shorter boundary instead of the 40, the 25 feet, and then also ask for the height addition. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I am caught without knowing what those two parcels can be.
Yes, I understood. Yeah, we're certainly open to additional feedback, restrictions around the use. You know, it's hard. It's hard, we're in this position, when we're in this position, because we don't want to, when we find good quality user, have to come back and rezone. So we want to set it up in a way that is good, but we also want enough flexibility to be able to attract the right people. So it will certainly open the ears of staff's feedback on those tags. I know there's several, we did put several prohibited uses, marijuana, dispensary, adult entertainment. Yeah, there's a handful of things that we proactively put in there, but open to additional feedback.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions?
My biggest concern is the density and then also the amount of divergences. You're asking for 13 divergences.
Yeah, understood. Well,
And your justification for your divergences, I'm not seeing it.
That piece, I appreciate that feedback.
I mean, you're telling me your product is a high quality product, but when I look at your pictures, I'm seeing 90% vinyl on your buildings.
Yeah.
And that's probably the cheapest product you could put on a building.
Not cheap as it used to be, but yeah, we're open to feedback. I mean, we'll use, including all the areas I mentioned, is we can use a higher quality vinyl or mill. There's a lot of quality vinyl material. We're happy to bring more samples in and look at it, but the cedar shake looking ones, the board back.
Still vinyl.
Good question, Nancy.
Yes, my question is in regards to the residential, and I understand this is preliminary, but you make mention that the single-story ranch apartments will have 4 to 8 buildings or homes in each unit, but I'm only seeing 6, 7, and 8 in the drawings, and the same with the apartments, or the 3-story, if you will. It says 1, 2, and 3, and I'm only seeing 1 and 2. It's possible I overlooked it.
Gotcha, but it's more likely possible that we didn't include the full plan, so we'll check that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Is this where you're at, Jim? It's like the number one. These are building numbers.
Not that.
I love the fact that you're leaving some of the trees, but you're still taking more than 50% of them.
Yeah, I didn't catch the beginning, sorry.
I love the fact that you're leaving some of the existing trees, but you're still taking more than 50% of them. In your sample of your tree survey, I see mostly oaks and whatnot. I didn't see any reference to like Bradford pears or culinary pears or honeysuckle or anything like that. I guess my question would be more to our professionals. If a developer comes in and they leave existing trees, are they responsible for taking out anything that's invasive?
I don't think we have a code regarding that at all, no.
It's good to know.
So Joe, are you talking about taking out invasives that are in the area that's preserved?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know pears are a huge problem.
Mhm.
And of course, the honeysuckle and everything else, but it was just a question.
Yeah.
I had a question on trees also. This might be a question for Todd. I assume you were the one that calculated this. In divergences, number 6, tree replacement shall be provided for on-site to the extent that is reasonable and practicable. The landscape plan reflects 345 trees that are in addition to the code. Did that come from you, Todd, or?
Yeah.
Can you maybe come up and explain how you came to the 345 number? And I don't like this disclaimer in here, so I'm going to ask this to be removed for sure before you come back. It says any tree replacement that cannot be accommodated on site shall be offset by dedication of right of way for the construction of Four Winds Drive. I mean, we've already got like that in flight. I mean, those trees have to go somewhere. I mean, it's either you're going to plant them on your site or honestly, we're going to institute some sort of like payment per tree not planted or something.
I have the same concern, Joe.
Yeah. So maybe you can just tell me a little bit more about tree replacement shall be provided on site. And then you talk about it reflects 345 trees that are in addition to the code.
Right, the code calls out certain standards that we have to meet as far as the buffer, interior parking lot requirements, and I think there's another category. So we went through each site plan and categorized those to come up with what's required. And then the landscape plan has more trees on it than that requirement. So really, it was just a subtraction exercise at that point. Your code says we need, and this is just a number I'm throwing off my head. Your code says we need 100, we provided 200, so that site had an extra 100. So that's how we came up with that. We didn't design strictly to your code, we designed more towards what Wilcox is used to doing, which is more than what your code actually requires currently. So that's how we came up with our additional trees that we're already providing on site.
Okay, there's one other aspect of our code though, and that is like, if you've got a bunch of trees that you're going to clear, there's a calculation that you have to replace X amount of trees. I know you've done this for other developers in the city of Sunbury before. Was that analysis completed?
I think we took a look at how many were to be removed to be calculated across the site. So I would have to get those numbers for you, but yeah, we're gonna look at that.
Okay, I appreciate it. If you just want to work with staff on making sure that we're just in alignment there. I get where you're coming from on the 345 now, and this is more in like the landscape plans and tree islands and things like that in parking lots.
Code requires a certain amount per code.
Right.
Which obviously we have to follow, just meet the minimum.
Right.
And Wilcox typically goes above the minimum. Same code.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Ferris.
Are these two areas, the sub area A and sub area B, are they going to be run as one business or are they two separate businesses being run as?
It would be 2 separate.
Okay, and so there's no intent at this time of sharing the amenities.
Not at the present time. It gets fairly complicated on the financing side with lenders and sharing of amenities and things like that. So we typically have shied away from it. We in terms of one, I would say it's not clubhouse or a dog park, but in terms of one kind of shared amenities, we do try to create a lot of connectivity between the properties, and so we actually have If shut up, Max. There's a connection, you can map between the two sub areas and we'll have sidewalk connections, but yeah, you get into a little bit of, yeah, who's resident can pick up after their dog at the dog park and come with and vice to that. So we can separate.
Okay, the reason why I was asking that is so many of the communities, both single family and multifamily, put in a pool, and your side doesn't have a pool. And I would, not saying that you're required to put a pool, but I would look at if you're going to be the only one around.
Yeah.
And leaving your community without one.
Yeah. Perfect.
Questions. I think I answered the first one on my own. This development is going to be in the Olentangy School District, correct? Not in Big Walnut.
I believe so.
I'm looking at the map and I just want to make sure nothing's changed there. Okay. You mentioned in your informal that this product, you currently have communities in Reynoldsburg and in Maryville?
Yep, so we have communities in Reynoldsburg, Marysville, Westerville, Grove City. We are under construction in Plain City. Lewis Center.
Which communities are complete? If we wanted to go see what this is going to look like when it's done.
Yeah, the closest one would probably be in either Lewis Center, which is at 23 in Shanahan Road, or Powell, which is
We have quite a few.
yeah. The Powell and Lewis Center are two new, recently opened. One has a mod farmhouse, one is Urban Classic, so I'd probably suggest those two.
So if I Google Wilcox communities, I'm going to find all these. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm happy to follow up with staff and send you the exact links and the addresses. If
That's fine.
helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Third question, final question. In those communities, what have they used for the commercial area? What examples have those communities found to be appropriate for tenants so far?
Yeah, so not.
Or do they have commercial?
A lot of them don't have commercial elements, so, Lewis Center does not, Liberty Township / Powell does not, Reynoldsburg does. So there are some commercial lots, so if you wanted to get a sense of that, that would be one to visit. I would say having commercial parcels as part of it is more the exception than the norm for us.
Okay. You think it's generated by the interchange being proximity that it's?
I do, and just understanding how we'll be between two interchanges and trying to be mindful of the mixed use element that I understand some areas looking for in this area. I think it will be a very good commercial site, probably better than the ones to our north once the interchange gets in. But until that point, I think users are gonna want to wait to see that road coming.
That request came from some of the preliminary discussions where we were saying like Sunbury Parkway is going to be right on the south end of you. This will be the first major north-south road, the only major north-south road on Sunbury Parkway on the west side. So we said it's probably a good idea to carve some of this out and not have apartments, fronting that major intersection. Let's try to create a little business center in the future.
I guess my final comment is to echo what Joe said. He and I are both very conscious of density. So when you come back and do a formal presentation, I would just be interested to listen to the appropriateness of this density versus a lesser density, just to hear some justification on why this is the right number, other than this is as many as we can fit. So that's what we're going to do. I don't like that answer. I like the answer of this is what fits, and this is what's appropriate for the roads, everything around it. I'd like to hear a developer make a case.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, we can definitely come back to that.
Okay, thank you.
Does your open space include all the water retention ponds?
Believe so.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask that question as well.
Because I mean, you really only have in all your open space, one area for kids to throw a ball or run around. I mean, I love open space, don't get me wrong, but I like usable open space.
Yeah.
My guess is you're gonna want nobody around those ponds.
Yeah, and that's a good question. I mean, we try to kind of create some simple open space here.
But none in the apartments,
Yeah.
the lower section.
This would attract more kids actually, so. Yeah, just trying to, you know, site plan, get the commercial in, get all the infrastructure in, but, yeah, if it's something that you all would like us to look at, try to program something a little more intentionally, we're not just doing it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, Joe, just real quick. I guess mine's more comments than maybe a question, but I do like the idea of the single story apartments. I think it's a product that Sunbury doesn't have. I know if you go towards Delaware, I think it's called Redwood or Red something, I think is something very similar product. Yeah, behind Meyer, right. In fact, I've toured those before. So I think that's a great option, as you said, for people looking to downsize, maybe the kids are out of the house. So I definitely like that product. I think going with Deborah saying, what Joe's saying about green space and the pool and stuff, I do think the apartment complex market is getting get pretty tight. And it's going to get very competitive. So just in thinking of that, when you're looking to sell living in this apartment complex, what dog park's nice, pickleball's cool, but I would see pickleball probably being more appropriate in the single story apartments than maybe the apartments. And then maybe that opens something up, but I do think you're gonna need more than a dog park to attract, whether that's more green space, whether that's a pool or something more attractive. Because I think the apartment market, we've already got a few apartment complexes being built as we speak. And I don't think that's gonna stop. I know going further up north, you already have the Four Winds apartment complex there. Then going further west, you have some apartments being built. So it is gonna be, I think, a competitive market, especially when the parkway gets extended out, you're gonna have more housing. So just my 2 cents, as far as trying to make that as attractive as possible, but that's all.
That's a great comment. One of the things after we submitted this, then we keep toying around with it. One of the things we were thinking about, to your point, was, your entries here, do we shift the clubhouse up to try to create more of an open space, vista view back in this wooded area, and have more of a programmed area in here, whether it's bocce or pickleball. And then we were even talking about, could you clear out some of the brush and the crappy trees we were talking about earlier, and try to do some kind of path network through the woods. So it's still things we're thinking about, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of product coming to the town. I think amenities are a big differentiator. I think finishes, all the management, all that stuff all goes into it too. But yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
In regards to the roadways, I think I read Four Winds is gonna be 80 feet wide. The right of way is 80 feet wide. Okay. Not the road. Cause I'm like, holy cow, we're talking huge.
I think it's a 3-lane road.
Okay.
What's that? I think 4 Winds is 36. 36 feet wide. Thanks. And all of the roads internal to the 2 residential developments will be private. So really the only public road we would be building with 4 Winds, as well as the connection to Reeves and K. And everything else would be internal.
Four Winds would have to follow like our lighting standards and whatnot.
Yes. You like that you put the multi-use trail all the way from north to south, and that Four Winds is going to be completed. Looks like MTV just hit the lottery on this one if the roadway gets connected. So thanks for.
Oh, good. Thank you, Carter.
That's right.
I mean, I think in all seriousness, that MTB site, if there's great commercial opportunities, but without the infrastructure and, you know, it's hard to attract users. So I think if we can create that infrastructure, do quality landscaping, signage, entry features along it, and really truly master plan the area, I think we can get quality users attracted to that whole area.
Yeah, I was gonna ask staff just to do a very simple review on the way that open space was calculated. And I guess just open up dialogue between Wilcox and our team. I just want to better understand the number. I saw 26% open space, I think. But our code says, I think, a minimum of 20%, right? But 10% of the total needs to be usable open space. And then basically things that are not usable are like ponds, steep slopes. There's a myriad of things that would not be considered usable open space. It was hard to see on the sidewalk network in the private, on the private streets. Are there sidewalks in front of all of the units? I mean, is there a sidewalk network? It was really difficult to be able to see it.
Yeah, there's sidewalks throughout. We do them on each side of the road. I believe Cody's proposed to loop all the roads and parking areas with sidewalks as well. Okay. So, and then this is the connection in the back I was talking about.
Are there any walking trails or anything like through the woods and multi-use trails or anything?
You know, we talked about maybe trying to do a trail in the center here. We really don't have, quite frankly, a lot of the nice wooded areas on the adjacent property, on the pond property and things. So we didn't do walking trails through the woods. You know, eventually this is going to be an on-ramp. But we did meander them all through each development and connect out to that 10-foot path on four lanes. Okay. So it's quite a bit of connectivity.
It doesn't look like there's a crosswalk across Four Winds Drive to where your clubhouse is, and there's no sidewalks leading from the Wilcox product to the multi-use trail. This is again based on what I can see with my own eyes on this plan.
There needs to be.
In regards to grading, looking at the contour lines on your diagrams and whatnot, there wasn't any reference to the properties to the west. My only concern is because we're mounding around and making the retention ponds, that we're going to create low areas for the neighbors to the west. Because I couldn't see contour lines for those properties, I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. Our civil engineer for the on such a question. Yeah. So Tyler Jackson, 21. With the generality of the site drains from east to west, and it splits kind of in the middle. Part goes to the stream on MTB site, part goes to the wetland area that's kind of buffering between the Wilcox and apartment piece. But we will work with the city staff, city engineer to ensure that we are not causing any downstream impacts to those neighbors. This a lot of the grading right now is all preliminary based on GIS information. It'll all be a bit more cohesive once survey's been out on site.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
There's not going to be a traffic study. Is that the way I understand it?
There will be a traffic study.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I read that no traffic study.
It says that, right?
Yeah, I think it's the last page. I think that basically what they're saying is if they make it forward, they will go forward with a full scale traffic impact study and meet the requirements.
Okay, I read it as no data collection will be required. Counting traffic will be based on the Eagle Creek Phase 2. Top of the second page.
I might just ask staff to review this. I read it that there's going to be a traffic impact study. How those are actually done, I'm not sure.
I know we're doing one, so I think that might be a mistake.
Okay. Last thing I have is just my personal preference, opinion. But the apartments, the 3-story ones, look like a pile of shipping containers. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
You know what I did like though? It was a different look of 3-story apartment.
It's different.
I like that it was something different on.
We've always told developers no breezeways. We've always told developers no breezeways,
That's true.
just so you know.
Yeah.
Very mod.
It's mod.
Well, we certainly appreciate everyone's time and feedback. We'll keep working on this. Probably back in 6 months or so, if that's okay.
Yeah.
With some more answers. In the work of staff and all good.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the visitor section. Are there any visitors that wish to speak with the Planning and Zoning Commission? All right, looking for a motion to approve the minutes from July 22nd.
Actually, I have a correction.
Got a correction?
Under minutes from last month, it says the motion was made by Nancy Crawford and seconded by Nancy Crawford. I don't think I did both.
We'll get that adjusted.
That's any other comments, questions, or revisions? Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Next item is the zoning report.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Start the zoning report. We do have a couple new items. We have hired someone, so we have a new face on planning and zoning. It is Carla. She is, what is your director of planning and zoning?
I am Director of Planning and Engineering / City Engineering.
It's Carla Odebrowski. And, yeah, welcome, Carla. So, Alex and Alyssa, you will report to Carla, is that right?
That is correct.
All right. That's great.
There's more structure in the city now.
Good. And Dan is still like with us. He's just behind the scenes and, these are professional services, so.
So is she employed by the city then?
Yes.
We're not doing just CT anymore, basically.
I remember when you told me like 5 or 6 years ago, we should do our own city engineer. I've been working on it. And we hired.
You can thank me for your time.
Well, thank you very much.
Just
I
kidding.
totally agree about having our own city engineer. Once you become a city, there are so many things. And I hope to see in about 10 years, I saw it at the city of Powell, how much was saved in engineering firm cost by having a staff engineering department.
Well, I'm excited. You have so much development going on and I can't wait to be a part of it.
Welcome.
And then in addition to Carla as well, I've brought up OpenGov a few times. We are, I believe, officially live as of tomorrow. So we're still going to be working through, like, obviously trying to get our feet under it and that. But as of tomorrow, they're wiping all of our test data and people will be able to go in and apply online. So I'm hoping that next meeting I come in, I'll be able to run you guys through it. So you guys are familiar with the platform as well. And then that way, if anybody asks, we're all kind of in the same realm. But at this moment, nothing quite yet. So hopefully next meeting, we'll be able to dive into that. As far as permits go, we have 30 zoning certificates. Most of those are accounted from the Sunbury Commerce Park. They got their zoning certificates as of this month. So I believe they were 13 or 14 of those right in the center. All the new roads you see, Overland, Mail Avenue, Pacific Way, Frontier Way, Yellowstone Way, Stagecoach Pass. All those are going to be for Sunbury Commerce Park here. And then out of that 30, 27 of those were new constructions, which you'll see on our next page, which is significantly more than we had last year. But as you know, like last year, we had the Ravines with the 35. So it kind of just depends on the month. We have had Ravines is looking for their next phase. So I'm expecting in the next month or so that we'll have another kind of staggering month with these zoning certificate approvals. And then at the request of someone on the commission, I did break down into units as well. So you can see significantly from this month, based on that Sunbury Commerce Park approval, we did have 120 more units added, which made this month more significant for multifamily. But looking at the year, with that 120 approval, we have 120 total units of multifamily that have been approved, and then 114 single family units that have been approved as well. And then if anyone else has any kind of recommendations or things you'd like to see within the zoning report, kind of looking, I mean, any kind of general idea or anything you think would be beneficial to see visually on paper, feel free to let me know and I'll try to incorporate that if I can.
Great, Alex. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. And then, yeah, any questions on anything zoning or planning or engineering?
Comments or questions for Alex? Sorry, I misplaced my agenda. All right, next item is discussion of new business. Mr. Gokenhour.
We did this on a Friday. And I spent over a day, maybe 2 or 3, really. And it's a lot to digest
That is.
in a short amount of time. Any possibly get it any sooner than 3 days before the meeting?
How soon do you want it?
Could we change our process of you need to submit your paperwork
Yeah,
and then at least
so,
like have a week later to digest it?
yeah, so to give you some understanding, I take it out every Friday. I can, whatever day you guys would like it, I can. I think our typical deadline, like the absolute latest we'll get submissions would be 15 days prior for our public notices. Some things require 20 days prior as well. Most of the time, as I'm receiving them, I am uploading them to the OneDrive. So most, like if I have any edits or anything prior to, I can edit those within the binder. I'm more than happy to bring it out. If you guys want it on that Monday, if you want it the week prior, as long as I have all the materials from the applicants, then I'm more than happy to bring it out earlier.
It would be nice.
Yeah. I can make that adjustment.
1 week, my vote. 1 week, please.
Okay. Yeah.
It's still
Is
on
that-
me.
And you can.
But as long as I have all the materials, worst case, I would reach out to you guys and let you know, hey, I don't have everything. So either you would be missing something in the packet that you can print off or review online, or you would have the complete packet. But if there's any kind of difference between what the packet is and what's online, I'll let you know when I deliver the packet.
Okay.
Assuming it wouldn't be all there.
Thank you, Alex.
I know I brought it up in the past, but what do we need to do to start the process of looking and taking a deep dive into our densities? And trying to go from having cookie cutter developers coming in and just cramming 1 million houses into, an acre of land. And where do we start saying no more of that? We want to see more like 1/2 acre lots, 3/4 acre lots, 1 acre lots, 2 acre lots. I mean, how do we start that process? Where do we go to get it started?
I don't know, Mr. Hennessy, do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want to take some time to respond? Because I mean, if I had to answer the question, I would say, okay, what do we want to look like? Versus making it a what I'll call a mathematical exercise. Like, hey, here's a community that we would want, to structure ourselves like and dissect it that way. I think it's going to take planning, a pretty significant planning effort to be able to compare what we do today versus get to that future state. But it doesn't mean we can't do it, but we need to probably start with where our master plan is today too.
Because I know in the master plan, it talks about spreading out the further we get away from the core. I mean, where does the spreading out start? When we hit Delaware city limits? I mean,
Right. Yeah. Alex, do you want to take a note and you and staff, Carla, can talk about how to slice the apple?
Thank you. The only thing I would add or massage what you said is when I look at density, I look at how many types of housing we have. So because you have different needs, and we do need some areas that have the high density, and we need areas that don't have the high density, and we need levels in between there. And that's where I'm not into a set, this is how dense we need to be versus we have so much of this type of stock versus this type of stock. Because I would have been, when I was young, we had the 2 and 3 acre houses. And now I'm at the retreat where I have the little postage stamp, and even the postage stamp I look at and going like, go away.
Right. Should you grab me anything, Mrs. Miller?
I had one thing, and this is kind of a city council question. Now that we're putting a lot of construction on the west side of 71, are we looking as a city to have some type of city of Sunbury identity public area over there? And I don't know what it would be. I just, you know, what happens if you don't look at it now while there's a lot of open land? It's hard to look at it later.
Right.
And that's what I would be looking at and asking the city council to do.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, there are a couple of things that I would say are in flight. One, we do have signage and lighting guidance for the Sunbury Parkway master plan that we've recommended. We have the bridge aesthetics. So the bridge that will be over Sunbury Parkway will have Sunbury branding, including the word Sunbury, and I think an image of a cupola. Is that right? So we've been working on that for actually the past few years. And one thing, yeah, go ahead.
What I like is, I love all that, but, and I like where when, not that I'm a park person, I like to go to national parks, not even state parks, but I like the concept of different varieties. So like if, and I'm just going to throw out, I don't want to use these. If that park had a splash pad on that side of town, and this park has the tennis courts, and this part has where it's more open space and you can just do what you want, or this park has a skate park. I like the varieties that are offered throughout the city, and they're not concentrated in one area. And whether we know what we want to do with them or not, having the land is more important at this point than deciding what it is.
I agree with that. It's good feedback.
Yeah, I'm not using it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Crawford? Mr. Stotterman?
Yeah, one thing real quick, this is more of a, I guess, a request. Probably because of my engineering background. I find that when we have these commission meetings, a lot of times we're very looking very microscopically at specific plats of land. We don't always have the ability to pull back and see how does this affect the greater community and see all the different things that are going on. Now, I know there is a map of the city that gets updated. I think it would be nice and beneficial to have that in the room with us when we're having some of these discussions where we can see the giant acreage that's being annexed over here relative to what's going on, and it gives a good sense of direction. I think sometimes when we're talking about things relative to other things and where things are, I know you guys are probably better at, knowing these things by name and where they are. I'm not quite that good yet, but if somebody could say, oh yeah, it's that little plat right there behind the Kroger, it's the one over here. It's a good point of reference for those of us who are visual people. So something on a E or D size paper would be a useful tool for me personally, if it could be in the room, if that's something that's possible. I think other people might like it.
Would you be opposed to that being within the packet as well? We can include, we have like a,
Just take anything, as long as it's on a big piece of paper. I use D&E size, it worked.
we can
Scale.
look into that, but just for temporary solution, I'm thinking I can just include, because we have an internal map that shows like developments, ongoing developments within the city. And I think that'd be helpful for, as you said, just visualizing what's going on in the city, but we'll think bigger picture at a map within the room as well.
I think like the size of the wall behind Jason would.
I would not,
Honestly.
I would not support a big map in this room at this point, but I do hear what you're saying.
But you could go back to the old fashioned where they're rolled up.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
just
we've
roll them down.
done that before, for
Yeah,
sure.
roll
And even like
down.
where we've had it on temporary, like things in front of us that we can see, but I mean,
Some of us need visuals desperately.
I totally agree.
You remember these names of communities.
Yeah, can we get,
I know I'm the new guy here, but we could all have laptops or iPads and go to the GIS and zoom in.
that's what I was gonna say, GIS, we should probably get Jason access to the GIS system if you're familiar with, I mean, I guarantee you're familiar with, using GIS, but there is something, yeah, you can grab onto and see with paper that feels good too.
I'll take whatever you can offer. I'm just asking for more.
Any other items? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Yeah, second by Mrs. Miller. Discussion? Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Gokenhour,
Yes.
Mr. Slaughterman.
Yeah.
Mr. Grumney. 6 yeas, we are adjourned.